All right. Thank you all very much for joining. My name is Cory. I'll be the presenter today for this webinar. This is webinar number 5 of our series. And today we're going to talk about checklists. If this is your first time attending one of our webinars, the way we do this is everyone's mic is turned off just to avoid background noise, things like that. So if you have any questions, by all means, anytime, put them in the chat. Matt is here and he's going to monitor the chat. And when we get to question periods, and we've got a few placed throughout our presentation here, he will bring up all those questions. All of our other previous webinars, if you weren't able to attend and you didn't know about them, are all available on our YouTube channel, and I'll link that at the end. All right, so we are going to let's get started. So, as I said, webinar 5, we're talking about checklists. So here are today's subjects. First is why checklists and why checklists in Directline. So those are 2 questions, and we're going to do our best to answer both of those. We're going to talk about the action capabilities with Directline Mobile. So if you're using checklists and you're using Directline Mobile, there's some additional functionality that you can add to your checklists that'll make them a little bit more useful and give you a few more options. We're going to talk about on-demand inspections, and I think that's something that'll be very useful for this group in particular. Anyone who's managing facilities, the on-demand inspections, I think you'll find very useful. We're going to touch on checklist routes. I don't see those being overly useful for this group, but I'm going to show you how they work. I'm going to give you an example of a time you might use them, and then maybe it'll be something that some of you will find use for. And then we're going to talk about checklist reporting. And that's gonna go all the way back to why put your checklists in Directline. And because the biggest reason we put our checklists in Directline is all of our data is going to be reportable. Everything that we put into our checklist is reportable, and I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit as well. So, our first question: why checklists? So, checklists can be set up in a number of different ways. You can use checklists to lay out every point that you need to inspect. You can use checklists as a reminder. What do you do? What order do you need to check things in? It can be used as a general reminder. Did you check this section? Did you check that section? I've got a quote here that comes from a book called The Checklist Manifesto. It's a very interesting book, very, very useful in teaching you, or in giving you some ideas of how to set up your checklists. I definitely recommend it. That's not a recommendation from Megamation. That's a recommendation from Cory. So, it's something that I read and that I follow quite closely. And this quote is, "We can have the most highly skilled, highly trained, hardworking people, but the volume and complexity of what we know can exceed our ability to deliver its benefits correctly, safely, or reliably. And the solution to this problem is a checklist." The checklist it's a very important piece of maintenance. It's a very important piece of a lot of things, from your pre-operation checklists for school buses. It could be pre-operation checklists for an operating room, or it might be the steps to inspect your HVAC unit or to rebuild an air compressor. All of these things, checklists can help by laying out the order that things need to be done in. They can be used to make a physical reminder for each for the person that's doing the work, a reminder that, hey, make sure you shut it down, make sure you disconnect the power. Well, whatever things need to be whatever thing, the important things for the work to be done safely and reliably. And on top of that, so that's why checklists, and checklists are very good. Probably most of you have checklists in some form, whether it be an Excel spreadsheet checklist or a Word document that you print out with work orders, or maybe you have them, maybe you just have a list of steps written out in work descriptions on your PMs. And those really are checklists in a way. So the other question then is, what are the benefits of putting the checklists in the Directline checklist module versus just attaching that Excel spreadsheet? You can attach an Excel spreadsheet and it'll be right there. It'll print out with your work orders if you're printing them, and that's fine. But if you put them, if you use the Directline checklist module, all that data that you record, all the times that you say, yes, I checked the filter in the HVAC unit, or yes, we checked the tire pressures in the school bus. We have our pre-flight checklist we do every morning. We checked our air pressures every morning. And that becomes reportable data. So that when that checklist is filled out every day, you can then go back and run a report to show you all the times bus 365 had its tire pressures checked. They are easily updated. So you can go into your checklist entry and you can make a change if you found out that there's another check you want to add, or you want to be able to collect more data rather than just a yes, no, you want to take actual pressure measurements from those tires. You can update the checklist very easily. You can update just because I keep going back to this example, one checklist for pre-flight or pre-operation for your school buses, and you only have to update one checklist, and then it updates it for your entire fleet of school buses. It's paperless. If you're using Directline Mobile, your checklists can be completely paperless. So they can be filled out right in your Directline Mobile. You can fill them right when you're doing the checks. So when you're on the roof working on the HVAC unit, or when you're standing in the parking lot checking over the bus, or when you are standing in the operating room checking the equipment, you can do that all right from your Directline Mobile. So if you're using Directline Mobile already, checklists are really just adding another excellent benefit to the Directline Mobile. And also another key that goes right along with Directline Mobile is the additional actions that you can put on that will add functionality to your checklists. So not only are you saying, yes, I checked the tire pressure in the bus, but you can also say, I checked the tire pressure in the bus. It was a fail because it's below 40 psi. So now I can create a follow-up work order. The system can automatically create a follow-up work order to put air in that tire or replace that tire. So we're going to talk about that next. So action capabilities. And this is the key here, is that this only works with Directline Mobile. Okay, so we're going to talk about some stuff that is not doesn't require Directline Mobile. So this whole webinar is not going to focus just on mobile, but this piece right here, the action capabilities, this does require you to have the Directline Mobile, and and I'll kind of explain that as we go. I'll explain why as we go. So when you're setting up your checklist, you can add actions to take. So the actions you can add are follow-up work orders can be created automatically to address deficiencies. So any problems, any problems that there are, you can automatically create a follow-up work order. Involved parties can be notified of conditions. So what that means is you can say, I know, not only do I want to create a follow-up work order, but maybe I want to email the bus garage to let them know that that a work order is coming in to repair this bus, or I need, maybe I just need to notify a supervisor that that the condition of the HVAC unit is deteriorating. We can have it display an alert on the screen when the checklist is completed. So we can just have it pop up a message and say, hey, you marked this as a fail. Make sure that you follow up with the supervisor, or make sure that you notify someone, or make sure that you put the unit out of service. And we can add these actions to yes, no selections, pass, fail selections, or option list task types. And here's what that looks like. So when we're creating a checklist, we're really just adding tasks to our checklists, right? So when we add a task, and right here we're inspect our first task, line number 3, is a pass fail. We're inspect for leaks and loose components and connections and excessive wear and tear. If it's a pass, action to take is default. It's just not going to do anything. If it's a fail, it's going to create a follow-up work order. Okay, so let's say we wanted that to create a follow-up work order, but we also want to notify someone. What we would do is when we click in this follow-up work order section, there'll be an option button there, or a search button there that we can click on, and it'll bring up this actions to take window where we're already saying create a follow-up work order, but we can also say send an email, and we put the email address in here. The other option we have is we could say to add or display an alert, and then we would type the alert in parameter 1 here. Okay, and I'll show you how that's going to work. So I'll flip over here to my my Directline Mobile, if I can find it. This should be the one. So in my Directline Mobile, I'm going to go to my work. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. Hold on one second. Sorry about this. Here we go. So if I go to my work, I can see. So this is Directline Mobile. If you're not familiar with Directline Mobile, we have a mobile interface, works through the browser on your mobile device, and it loads, and it looks just like this. And the nicest functionality we have for, or the most important functionality we have for it, is updating work orders. Okay, so as a user here, I go to my work, I find my work order right here, and I've got a checklist on it. And when I go to my checklist and I mark something as a fail, and I thought I had a deficiency on here. Maybe I'm in the wrong work order. I'm in the wrong work order. All right, so what it should be doing is it should be asking me to fill in a deficiency description, just like this. Here we go. Sorry about that. I was in completely the wrong work order. So when I have a work order like what I showed on my slide there, where I've said the action to take is create a follow-up work order, when that gets marked as a fail, you see it highlighted in red right here, and then it asks me for a deficiency description. And it says right down at the bottom, a follow-up work order will be created when the checklist is completed. So I'm going to put in a description of what's a description of what the problem is. Right? I put in my description of my problem. Then I continue to fill out my checklist. Here's another one, excessive blade buildup. I said yes, and asks me for a description. So each one of these that I put that gets marked as a deficiency is going to then, when I mark this checklist as completed and hit save, it tells me the checklist has been updated. You may view or modify your follow-up work order. And when we look at our follow-up work order, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to say follow-up deficiency work order generated from this work order, this checklist, and this task on that checklist. So immediately, without us having to have our maintenance person go in and create a work order, without having to get them to email or call a planner to create a work order, nothing like that. All they have to do is mark that as a fail. And when they save the checklist, it creates this work order automatically. So they can even start working on it right away just by checking, immediately start work on this work order and hitting submit. So now we've got that work order created. Now we've got our work order created, it's issued to me, and I'll be able to find it right here in my work list. So it's very quick and easy. It's very efficient. It doesn't require a lot of input from the maintenance person filling out the work order.
Hi, Cory. Sorry to stop. We've had a few very similar questions to exactly where you're at about the assigning to and the recipient for these work orders. And I think they're trying to, from my understanding, is assign to can that be the same as the person who did the work order, as in do it now, I'm going to do it now, and as well, do they have to have the supervisor review and assign, or can the person be set up so that they can actually just assign it right away and have it move on from there and assign to themselves?
So when I did this work order here, I marked. Just looking at the questions, it looks like what assign.
Danielle, I think Danielle and Christy are kind of asking the similar question. We're trying to find the same answer.
So the term here, the thing here is that we're talking about the what you're talking about is issued to, because you issued to a specific person. So that's what I did with this work order when I marked it as when I said issue to self, that issued it to me. So if I check that issue to self, it issues it to me, and then I can work on it. If I do not check that box, the issue to doesn't get filled out. Then, like Christy says here, a supervisor can review it and assign and issue it.
And there is a follow-up from Danielle.
Yeah, I'm just reading that now. Then the supervisor issues to employees. You know what, Danielle? I think that might be. I believe it'll assign it to the same group, but we'd have to test that in your system specifically. So why don't you reach out and we'll do some testing on that and make sure, because just the way you're using it, it's where your team leads are, I believe, are issuing from mobile. So yeah, let's look at yours specific, as yours is a little bit different, circumstance. As far as the work order auto issuing, it doesn't auto issue, but you can issue it to yourself if you have things set up like if you have users set up as lead hands, they'll be able to issue it to other people, but by default, most users can only issue to themselves. And Mark Richardson asked, why does this mobile look different than the one we use? That's a good question, Mark. Very likely has to do with it being a different version. And if you reach out to Matt, he can get you in touch with your account manager about that. Okay. So we weren't gonna do questions right there, but it's good that we were since we're still on the screen. Okay. The other thing that I want to point out, just because we're talking about task types, so we looked at the actions to take on those tasks. There are a couple of other notable additional task types. One is equipment event readings. So if you're triggering PM off of something other than elapsed time, like if you are PMing a compressor based off operational hours, or your bus is off of mileage, then you're going to want to record those mileage or hour readings at some point. And you can use the equipment event reading task type to be able to put those readings onto a checklist. So you could have a daily checklist for taking the mileage off your bus. And this is the only way that you can actually take readings from mobile, is using this checklist task type. Date and time can be used to add date and time to the checklist. Okay, so you can just add those task types into your checklist task types, and you'll be able to just add those to the checklist, and they'll give you a calendar to choose your date, and they'll accept time in a proper time format. Add nameplate data is another useful feature. Maybe not overly useful for some of this group, but what it does is when you're creating your checklist, if you use add nameplate data, it adds name, model, and serial number fields to your checklist, and those fields are automatically filled from the equipment entry that the checklist is attached to. So in the example of a bus, you might use add nameplate data, and then it'll fill in the name, model, and VIN number of the bus right onto the checklist. Just helps you identify, especially if you have multiple equipment and multiple checklists on one work order. It lets you kind of keep straight which equipment you should be looking at. So those are just some additional task types on our that we can put onto our checklist that I just wanted to note, since we were talking about task types. Does anybody have any questions about task types or actions on tasks? Or I think we probably answered them all already, but
yeah, I think we're good to go, Cory.
All right. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is on-demand inspections. I think there'll be a lot of people in this group who are going to find this to be a useful tool. What on-demand inspections are is they make inspection checklists available without a PM. So normally when you're doing your checklists, you create your checklist. It's got all of your checks, all the things that you need to look at. And then you attach that to a PM. It comes out once a month, once a week, whatever, and you complete the work order with the checklist. What this one does, what the on-demand inspections do, is they let you create a checklist, link it to an equipment or a room or a building, and be able to say, okay, I want to be able to do that inspection when I get to that site. So you can go to a building, and you can say, okay, I'm going to do my walk around inspection of the fire system in this building. And you can walk up to the building. You can start an on-demand inspection. This is another one that really goes to mobile, because that's where we would be starting them from. We're at the building. We're doing an inspection on or at site. So we would want to have the we would want to be able to do it on mobile. As I mentioned, we can do it on buildings, rooms, or equipment. And this is what it looks like. So it takes our checklist setup and it adds a couple of steps to it. So when you're in your checklist definition entry, we've got 3 tabs. We've got tasks, equipment, and on demand. And you've probably seen that before. And if you haven't used on demand inspections, you probably said, I don't know what that means. Well, this is what it means. If we go to that on demand tab, we can choose to do an equipment inspection, a room inspection, or a building inspection. We can link it to, in this case, we have an equipment inspection that we can link to either a class of equipment, so maybe all rooms or all compressors or all buses, or we can link it to specific equipment IDs. In this case over here, I said equipment IDs, and what I did is I linked it to every washroom in this building. Okay, so now when I'm say a custodian and I'm doing a walk around inspection and I'm checking each washroom, I'll be able to go on my mobile and say, okay, I'm at washroom 001-B wash. Start my checklist. And then when I go to G wash, I can start that checklist. I can create that work order, start that checklist right there. I can also set my inspection type to building inspection. And when I do that, now I can have that, I can link that checklist to the building class, which is just all buildings, or I could link it to specific buildings. So if this inspection is only useful for equipment sheds, then I could link it to this specifically to the equipment sheds. Or I could link it to just specific rooms. So I did it on my sample. I did it where I linked it to the equipment, the washroom equipment individually. I could have had a washroom room class, and then I could have just linked it to the room class washroom. So different ways that we can do it, but here's what it's going to look like when we get to it. So we're going to go to our mobile right here. This work order here is one that I actually generated from this that I actually generated from that checklist that I showed. And here's how I did it. I went to equipment on demand inspection. And I went put in specific equipment. So I might put in 001-G wash. Last inspected, I just put all, but you would be able to limit that to when it was last inspected, and then hit next. This worked a minute ago. I swear it did. Because I created that work order with it. Okay, so what I did there, I said I did an equipment inspection on Barrhaven Public School. It tells me this work order is already created because this is the one I created earlier. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to skip past that one. And excuse me. Got myself lost in here. So what I'm doing, I guess I can't do another one from that checklist because it already created this one. Okay, so this is what they look like though. So it created this work order. It issued it directly to me because I'm already in this because I'm logged in. So it's issued to me. It's in my work list, and it has a checklist attached. So I can now I've got my work order with a checklist. I can clock into it, clock into my work order, and I can start my checklist. This is a quick checklist. We say yes, we say pass or fail on everything. and then we hit save. Or then we mark all checklist items completed, we hit save, and now we very quickly created a work order, clocked into it, and had that checklist. So now I can clock out. I'm not going to worry about that right now, but that's what our on-demand inspection lets us do. It lets us create a work order on demand to let's create a work order on demand with a checklist attached, so that right away we can get to that work order without having to go through a PM scheduler or having to have a pre-made PM procedure entry. So this doesn't replace PMs. It's another alternative for things that maybe you're not doing on a regular schedule, but and maybe you don't want to have you don't want to generate a work order every day for it or what have you. So you can create it on demand when you need them. Are there any questions about on demand?
No, it's like we're all good on that level.
All right. Okay. So our next point is going to be checklist routes. And as I mentioned, I don't think we're going to find a lot of people who in this group are going to find this overly useful. But if I go through it too quickly, or if it looks like something that you would find useful and you have questions, by all means ask them. We'll slow down. We'll go back and look. So, what are checklist routes? Checklist routes create a list of checklists for multiple equipment or multiple procedures to be done. It organizes the timing, the order that things need to be done in. Okay, so what we're doing is we're creating a route. And this could be a physical route where one person is going and completing multiple checklists, and we're giving them a route. Here's where how you're going to do it. You're going to go through, the downstairs classrooms. Then you're going to go up a floor and go through the next classrooms, or you're going to systematically go through the operating rooms 1, 2, 3, and 4, or whatever the route is, be it a physical route or just the order that things need to be checked in. When we get to, this is how we're setting that up. So I created one here for sprinkler checks. And what I did is I just took a building. And I said, I need to do a sprinkler inspection in each room in the building. Okay, so I set it by building class, or sorry, I set it to this building. This is our math building. I said it's going to be by equipment class, and my equipment class is building room. So now it's going to be every room in the math building, and it's going to use checklist 10011. So for each room in this building, we're going to fill out checklist 10011. Then I can take that checklist route and I can attach it to a PM. So on my PM procedure entry, I'm going to set my checklist linking method to link through equipment routes. And then I'm going to hit the line scheduling details button, and it's going to bring me to my PM detail entry. And I'm going to attach checklist route 10008. Then I'll take, when I run the PM scheduler and it generates the work order for PM number 363, attached to that work order, I'm going to have this list of checklists. and this is the order that it's going to take us through. And I could set this order to be whatever I want. I went with the room number order just because in my imagination, our imaginary math building is laid out that when we go down the hall, this is the order the rooms are in. But we could have changed this list if we wanted. If we wanted to do all the washrooms first and then classrooms, then we could change that in our checklist route, so that when we're going through these checklists and we do them in order, we hit those equipment or those rooms in that order. And this is what it's going to look like. So if I'm on the work order, so here's the work order from the desktop application. I generated my work order from my PM. I've got all the equipment listed, so all the rooms that we're doing. And then over here it says there are 28 checklists. So I check on that. And here's my here's my list of checklists. So then I'm going to go through each one and I'm going to complete the checklist in order. And once I complete it, then it shows complete and I move on to my next one. Okay. Now, if I can look at this same thing from my mobile, when I go to my Directline Mobile, and let me just find the right one. There it is. When I go to my Directline Mobile, here is my work order right here. Here's my multiple equipment attached to this one work order and my 28 checklists. I completed one checklist just now when we were looking at that list. So show it right here. It's showing me here's my completed checklist, right? If I remove that checkbox, it drops out. So from the mobile, as I go through and I complete each one of these checklists, right? So I'm just going to mark everything as done and mark it as complete and hit save. And then it's going to bring me back here. And now I've got 2 completed checklists and it brings me right to my next one. Right. So I'm going through these checklists in order, going down the list, and they're going to drop off as we go. And in the end, we'll have no more checklists.
So and sorry, and I just want to point to everyone that stays if he gets called away to go fix something else in emergency. Okay, comes back to that work order. He's now whatever's done is done, and it carries on. He's not having paper and scraps and everything else.
Exactly. So that's the reason why these they don't disappear, but why we fold them up into this option to hide, so that when you if I walk away from this, I've got through 2 rooms and now I've got to go fix a leak somewhere, and I'm coming back to this. When I come back to this work order, I can tell exactly what's been done because those checklists are finished. So it gives you, again, it's laying out the order you need to do things in, and it keeps that order. So that's what checklist routes are for, that's how checklist routes will work. Does anybody have any questions on checklist routes?
Just a question about the recording the webinar, and yes, it is being recorded, and Cory usually sends it out 24 hours, 48 hours afterwards, and it'll also be posted on our YouTube channel.
Yep. So I should have it posted to our YouTube channel on tomorrow, probably by tomorrow afternoon, and I also will send out an email to everyone who is here with a link to the video. All right. So the last piece, and probably the most important piece of checklists, is checklist reporting. So this is something that you don't have if your checklists are on paper, or even if your checklists are in Excel. You're still having to print them out and fill them out, or you might be filling them out on that spreadsheet and saving it, but even still, then you've got a stack of, or a digital stack of checklists of data that you can't report on. And then, so that's the key. It's the most important piece, in my opinion, of using checklists within Directline. And this goes whether you're doing the checklists on mobile or you're doing the checklists from completing them from the desktop. One thing I should mention is when you have checklists attached to a work order, you can't close the work order until you've completed the checklist. So not only are we telling people we want you to fill out these checklists, but we're forcing them to fill out the checklists so that we're forcing them to fill out those checklists. So it gives a little bit of a nudge to make sure we collect that data. So there are a couple of reporting functions in the system, and I'm going to show them to you. We got a list here, but I'm going to actually go to the system. I'm going to show you a couple. When we look at, when we first load our system, we have the analytics. There is a single analytic in there. This one only works if you're filling out on mobile and you have things marked as deficiencies with the actions to take. So there's an analytic to track the number of deficiencies you're posting, and you can do that within a time frame or overall, whatever you want to do, and you'll be able to see the list of deficiencies. The reporting module has reports built in. A couple of really nice reports that'll give you most of the information that you're trying to find. And you can create your own reports in the report definition wizard. So we can do that from we create reports in the report, you can do that yourself using the table checklist results master, or you can call our support line, and our support line can help you create reports, and they'll all come from the checklist results master. So when you go into your export definition wizard or your report definition wizard, depending on what version you're using, the first thing you need to do is select the table. This would be the table right here, checklist results master. So let me jump over into a system that we can try to run a report on. So first of all, we have our checklist deficiencies analytic here. This is a demo system, so I don't have a lot of deficiencies put into our demo system, but this is basically what it's showing us. It's for each quarter. It's showing us on all checklists how many deficiencies did we have. In this case, in quarter 2 of 23, we had 3 deficiencies. If we click on that, it's going to show us that quarter 3 broken down by month and where those deficiencies came from. Looks like they were all in April. We can add filters to this. So if we wanted to see checklist deficiencies only for one building or for even one checklist, we could do that. And that's a nice quick look at how things are going. Gives you an idea. If you start seeing checklist deficiency numbers going through the roof, then you might want to look into that. Why are things breaking, or are we just getting better reporting now? The other place that we have our reports is when I hit switch to menu and I go to reporting. And if you don't have this reporting section, you would have the analysis module, and you'll find these checklist reports. In here, I'm going to all modules. If you have the analysis module, you'll see a maintenance checklists section in the analysis module. So when I go to the maintenance checklist section, we have a deficiency report, which is going to show us very similar to what we see in that analytic, right? It's going to show us a list of just deficiencies. We have a checklist log report. What the checklist log report does is it shows us in PDF form in each checklist that's been filled out. So here, let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to run it for 3 months here from February 1st to April 30th. I'm going to go to filtering criteria, and I'm going to put in a checklist ID, and I think I wrote down the right one. So for this checklist, for equipment number 002, I wrote down the wrong checklist. Maybe I'm in the wrong system. Hold on.
You're in a school, if you're looking, I'm not sure which one you're trying to find, but you are in the school database when
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could do the washroom one, and that should show up as well.
I had one that gave us a very nice report. I had a plan here. I confused myself running 2 different systems here, I think. No, there's none in there. Okay. Matt, you're the data guy here.
Yeah, if you go to building, try building 001. And then I would even just run a report on that. Like even just, you could probably use the washroom one, but I think if you just run a report on that, it should bring up a bunch of checklists that have been done.
Perfect. And this is what I want to show this one, and then I'm going to show one more report after this. Because this is giving us log data. So this is gonna show us the whole checklist and all the results that have been filled out. And we may have run too big a report here, but so this is going to show, like I said, the individual checklist, and it's going to show the results. So this would be the kind of thing that you would want to that you could take to an auditor and be able to say, yes, we filled out the safety check or the cleanliness check on our washrooms. Here are the results in the full in their full in their full kind of format, right? You can see all the passes and all the fails. The other report I'm going to show you, and if I can't, I might not get it to come up here, but all right. The other report I'm going to show you is going to be, let's flip over to our other system here, is the checklist results math, or the checklist results. So what the checklist results does, and this one is another one that's really good for auditing purposes, safety audits, things like that, because we can put in a specific checklist, right? So we could say, take maybe our fire extinguisher audit, and we could do it for a specific building, or we could even look at a certain task on that checklist. And when we export it, now we're going to see for each equipment number, the checklist that it was done on, the date, and let's expand this a little bit. So we can see for the equipment, so we've got equipment number 1 here, the checklist that we did, the description, the result for each line, and what building it was and what task it was. So this was a short checklist, but it gives us an idea, or it gives us the results of each checklist. If I wanted to see maybe just all the times that we did that we checked to see if the asset card was correct, or that we checked if the certificate was valid, we could on this equipment, we would be able to do that. So we could take that one equipment number and that line ID, and we could run a smaller sample here. So we could look at just is the certificate valid? We'll just look at this one piece of equipment, and maybe I'll expand this date range a little bit. And go back to the 1st of 2022. And this is going to give us a much more focused a more focused report, where we can see for that equipment all of the times that we checked that certificate and whether it was a pass or a fail. Okay, so it gives you a very focused approach to what were the results. Whereas this is our checklist log, and what this is showing us is each individual checklist. Here's the checklist, here's the work order it was on, the data was inspected, and here's all the results. Again, the checklist, data was done, the work order was on, the building, the equipment, and all the results. And the reason this took a long time to run is because there were 65 of these checklists. And if we scroll down, we can view every single one of them. We can also print this out, because this is just a PDF with a piece of paper, or PDF where each one will print out on a piece of paper. So if you were asked to show all of the checklists that were done for fire extinguisher checks, well, here you go. Here's every one of them. You can run them all out right from this report. So it's two different approaches to getting data. We can do it from the log report. We can do it from the checklist results. And as I mentioned, support can help you, or you can yourself create a report from the checklist results master. So if you wanted a similar report, but you wanted it to maybe look a little bit different, maybe show you columns in a different order, or just show you more focused or more data, you can do that by creating a report from that table. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, it looks good.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for joining. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you supporting our whole webinar series here. We do these about every 3 months, so you should see an invite come out about quarterly. Every one of them is recorded. It's on our YouTube channel. It's on our YouTube channel, which is linked right here. I have Megamation 4582. If you just go to YouTube and search for Megamation, you'll find us there. If you follow the channel, you'll be notified when new videos come up. We have lots of all of our pre-recorded webinars, as well as all of our training videos are on there. I see Carrie said this is a lot to chew on. All of this information that I gave you today, this was not meant to be a training session. What I wanted to do was give you a lot to chew on. So if you have any further questions, you want some more information, you want to know more about any of these features, you call our support line, reach out to myself or to Matt, and we can do training sessions where we can get in depth on any of these features or any other feature of Directline. So Charlie, yes, you'll get a link to the video tomorrow. All right. So thank you all very much for joining. Thank you. We look forward to it, Carrie. And thank you, Matt, for all your help. And everyone, have a great day. And yeah, thanks for joining.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, definitely call in for that training. It's well worth it. Cory went over a lot of stuff, and there's even more you can be doing. So call anytime.